Greetings from Castle Goring, from Nikki, Aurora, and from me. I'm going to plunge in immediately because we have a lot of ground to cover today. There has been a lot going on of great significance that seems to be eluding people in terms of its importance. And I'm going to plunge in, but first of all, I'm going to say at the end of this, I am going to post one or two clips of Olga Balakleet's birthday party on Sunday at the other house in Harrington Gardens. She heads up the Ballet Icons Gala. She is a very gifted musician. She is also an absolutely superb impresario and has actually ended up being one of the world's great ballet impresarios. She twice a year organizes the Ballet Icons Gala, and she celebrated a minor birthday. I think she was 37, maybe 37 and a half. And her husband, Julian Gallant, who is a very fine musician as well, and their son, Johnny, who is also a gifted musician, entertained. And so I'm going to play a little bit of that, and I'm also going to do one or two photographs because there were some really rather interesting people there. And hopefully you will find that diverting and rather more life enhancing than some of the rather ghastly stuff that we have to cover. So without further ado, I'm going to plunge in now. Oh, I should say as well, if anybody wants to come to an afternoon with Lady C at Castle Goring on Sunday afternoon, please apply for tickets sooner rather than later. I think it runs from 4 to 8 p.m. You arrive at 4, you get a welcome drink, I think a glass of bubbly, and then I think the first part of the show is 5 to 5:45. There's a break of half an hour, then from 6:15 to 7 p.m. And then afterwards, people can do photographs, selfies, mill around. So, and of course, they can mill around both before and after the show. So, if anybody's interested, I think it would be nice to see you, and please identify yourselves so I will know who you are. Okay? So, without further ado, I plunge in with what PQR says. Lady C, what do you make of Harry's visit to Angola to walk in his mother's footsteps for landmines? I seem to recall in The Real Diana, you had a backstory about her visit annoying the British government because she endangered a landmines treaty which had been years in the making. That's right. Is Harry following in his mother's footsteps in more ways than one? Also, what are your bongo drums telling you about Prince William's reaction to this supposed reconciliation meeting? Well, you're asking two big questions in one. So I'm going to very quickly dispense with the William part of it. My understanding is that he's spitting bricks about the whole thing. And we leave it at that for the moment, because the other part of the question is rather more interesting from my point of view, because it seems to be escaping people what's really going on. Harry and Meghan are desperate for publicity. They will do anything for publicity. They feel that their brand, well, she feels that her brand, and he's going along with it, will wither and die on the vine, and they won't get any opportunity from Netflix to make any more money, and they're never going to make a lot of money in any event. I just interject to make that point. Unless they keep themselves regal and keep themselves philanthropic and keep themselves relevant and keep themselves nice. Hence, I'm just a gardener and I pick ripe apricots from trees that have green apricots on them because I'm so authentic. And the visit to Angola is Harry trying to follow in his mother's footsteps in more ways than one. It's also a massive deflection from the fact that Harry and the other claimants in the case against associated newspapers, that the Hugh Grants and the hacked off people and Harry have brought through David Sherborne, they have all come in for massive criticism by Mr. Justice Nicklin, who has effectively accused them of, well, I'm going to actually read out exactly what Mr. Justice Nicklin says. I am not presently satisfied by the explanations that the court has received from the claimants regarding documents held by the research team, which includes Mr. Johnson, and whether they have been included in searches for the claimant's disclosure. In his order, he states, the claimants should search for and disclose any documents that refer to payments, royalties, or other inducements paid, provided or offered, or any demands or threats made, in order to obtain documents, information, or other cooperation from pleaded TPIs or any person who worked with any TPI in relation to the provision of information and or evidence concerning associated. Now, this is really pretty serious because the Mail believes that the claims were largely based upon information provided by, shall we say, former investigators whose reputations are not quite as pristine as one would hope, including Glenn Mulcair, Steve Whittemore, and Gavin Burrows. And basically, what Mr. Justice Nicklin is saying is they, through David Sherborne, have been paying people to come up with information and verification, which strikes pretty close to the bone and one step away from suborning perjury. It's a serious thing that Mr. Justice Nicklin has come pretty close to raising as an issue in terms of the reliability of their witnesses and therefore of the evidence that they are or have tried to put before the court. This is a big time serious stuff. It's buried at the moment between the Royal Overseas League meeting between the King's Communications Secretary, Tobin Andre, and Harry and Meghan's propagandists on the one hand, and on the other hand, Harry's deflected visit. Why is he going to Angola and walking in his mother's shoes? Diana was never in danger, nor is Harry. It's a massive PR stunt to enhance his reputation. Quite frankly, I don't know about you, but I'm sick and tired of Harry and Meghan and look at me, I'm so wonderful. Oh, by the way, if we end up forgetting important information to tell the judge, like I did when I forgot to tell Mr. Justice Warby that in fact I had cooperated in a book that I said I hadn't cooperated with. Oh, I forgot to tell Mr. Justice Nicklin that I am, all those witness statements sound, Mr. Justice Nicklin thinks, they might be deeply dodgy. Oh, but I'm a prince. Why would anything I do ever attract any criticism or suspicion? I am purer than the freshly driven snow. Just ask Meg. She's pure as well. Definitely pure. Purer than the freshly driven snow after it's been driven into the ground. Teacup Demitas says, Richard Eden is saying Kensington Palace did not know about this meeting. Let's not beat around the bush. That's obviously the Tobin Andre meeting. Let's not beat around the bush. Charles is no stranger indulging in media games and doing it at the expense of family members if he thinks it serves his interests. I'm reading this out because I do not believe that I should always agree with everything anybody says, nor should I avoid the possibility of people disagreeing with me or of taking an alternative point of view. Doing it at the expense of family members if he thinks it serves his interests. He did it to his own mother many times. So if Charles hid this from William, I cannot imagine the level of betrayal William will once again feel towards his father. I'm going to stop you right there and say, and then I'll continue reading your question because it's pretty long. The meeting has been mischaracterized by the Mail. Now let's remember the Mail is, Harry is suing the Mail. Remember the last question, Mr. Justice Nicklin? That is Harry and Hugh Grant and a whole load of other hacked off hacks trying to hack their way through freedom of the press so that all badly behaved celebrities will be able to do as they please, as if this is France. Of course, it's not France. And so let's remember that there is often more collusion in terms of the Mail trying to soft soap Harry and Meghan so that things will end up resolving well for the Mail. Let's remember that. So the mere fact that Harry and Meghan have Charlotte Griffith in their pockets should tell you something untoward, at least in my opinion, goes on. Because are they friends? Are they enemies? Are they frenemies? And also, the Mail has a strong incentive to try to end up currying favour with Harry and Meghan. So let's remember all of that. And they're the ones who put the spin on a perfectly ordinary meeting which had none of the relevance or significance that the Mail has tried to say it did. Rapprochement, olive trees, olive branches. Popeye and Olive, give me a break. Anyway, let me continue. So William does not need to feel betrayed by his father. It was a perfectly standard meeting between staff from the two royal households, because whether you like it or not, Harry is still royal. I know a lot of people would try to say he's not the ex-royal. He's not an ex-royal. He's still a royal. Let's stick to the realities of the situation and not get carried away with glib media talk. I am now beginning to give some credence to the rumours that William did not wear the Windsor uniform to the French state banquet as a form of protest if he did not have some inkling of what was happening. William has never worn a kilt. Are you going to say that that's also? William doesn't like certain forms of traditional attire, and he is Diana's son. He's Charles's son. Both Charles and Diana have obstinate, stubborn streaks in their nature. Surprise, surprise. So does William. So does Harry. William fights his corner in ways like that. Let's not get carried away about this. I am now beginning to give some credence to the rumours that William did not wear the Windsor uniform to the French state banquet as a form of protest, if he did have some inkling of what was happening. I really think Charles may be out of touch with the amount of anger towards Harry felt by the public. Putting energy towards reconciling with Harry is such an act of disloyalty towards William that Charles risks serious backlash unless Charles does the unforgivable and forces William to make nice with Harry. Remember that when it comes to YouTube poll after YouTube poll, Charles consistently trails behind William, Catherine and Anne respectively. Again, let me make the point again, because it seems to have eluded everybody. Just because the Mail on Sunday says that it was reconciliation talks and olive branches doesn't mean it was. There's no prospect of a reconciliation at this point. I've said it time and again. Are you going to believe the evidence of your eyes and what you hear, or are you going to believe the rubbish that you read? I think I'll leave that question at that because it's an extremely long question. Patricia Wilson says, when is Meghan Markle going to arrange a meeting like this with her father? Does she not realise that he, like King Charles, both have life-threatening illnesses? One day, the dad who gave you everything won't be around anymore, and karma always catches up with you. Meghan doesn't believe in karma. Meghan believes that she's a goddess. Karma affects mere mortals. She's not a mere mortal. But my understanding is that your point has been very definitely taken up by both the King and William and Catherine and Camilla. Why would Meghan wish to have a rapprochement with people whom she has regarded as racist and whom she has accused through her propagandist amid scabies of having been racist towards her, and wants a rapprochement with them when she can't be bothered to have a rapprochement with the father who, by her own account, for the first 36 years of her life, was a wonderful man and a marvellous father, and to whom she owed so much, and who thereafter she has dumped ignominiously. Do you begin to see how a lot of the reconciliation rapprochement rubbish is purely rubbish? Why would Meghan wish to make up with racists and abusers when she can't make up with the father who, by her own account, was a wonderful father and who, according to her, let her down over some staged photographs to try to retrieve his dignity, a dignity that the palace offered her staff to protect, and she refused to accept the offer of the palace. And according to her father and her sister, then orchestrated with Jeff Rayner for him to approach her sister to get her father with Jeff Rayner's idea, which they both believe was Meghan's idea, to stage the photographs so Meghan would have, shall we say, an ace in the hole. And Meghan knew how to press her father's buttons. She'd been doing it all her life, and she did it very successfully. On that occasion, if the only thing she has to forgive her father for is trying to preserve his dignity as a result of her colleague Jeff Rayner's approach and setup, and she has nothing else to forgive him for, how is it that she expects the royal family to apologise to her, notwithstanding the fact that she has abused them? Do you begin to see the total Kafkaesque, bizarre nature of the expectations of this woman and her sidekick? Just Curious says, the palace has supposedly outed the Sussexes as stupid, needy and desperate for requesting and leaking the meeting to discuss reconciliation recently. What do you think? The palace has denied having anything to do with it. Meghan, with the leaking. Meghan and Harry were quick to get in the first punch, as usual. they always getting the first punch. They were the first ones to deny having anything to do with the leak. As I've said before, and I'm going to say again, the meeting was not about reconciliation. The meeting was about strangers getting to know each other, since they had to work with each other inevitably. And for how long, of course, is an academic question to which there might be a really rather speedy answer, because that revolving door at Montecito just spins like a gig. So I make that point for what it's worth. Donna Varapodio says, when is the king going to realise that his errant son and the grifter cannot be trusted? If he's not careful, he will also alienate William. The idea that the king is going to organise a meeting of reconciliation behind William's back, when he is close to William and Catherine and knows how they feel, is ludicrous. Ludicrous. When are people going to start to get real and realise that royals and other grandees and celebrities and anybody who is so famous that everybody thinks they know them when they don't are human, just like everybody else? And they are not such a special category of individual that they do not have ordinary human attributes, unless, of course, they are grotesques like Meghan and Harry. So let's leave that one at that. Charles knows his son can't be trusted. And he knows that his daughter-in-law can't be trusted. That's why he won't speak to them. That's why he won't take their calls. That's why he has no involvement with them. And let's remember, Harry and Meghan were busy lying to the public for some considerable length of time, stating that, we're busy on Zoom practically every day with Granny and the kids, and William and Catherine and their kids, and Pa. Yeah. I mean, why people keep on believing the rubbish that they read in the newspapers is beyond me. I mean, we only need to use our powers of discernment and to see that there is a degree of consistency in the terms of the behaviour of the King, the Queen, the Prince and Princess of Wales, to see that a lot of what is being fed to the public is pap. Christos Liakis says, Dear Lady C, despite perfectly reasonable points about proper conduct between staff, dare I say this, whatever else needs to happen for the king to realise he must cut Harry off totally, permanently and in every aspect. He has betrayed him and everything he stands for, not to mention his decent and dutiful son, William, and dragged everyone into a circus without end. The minute Harry and Meghan were indulged one bit, even in a par for the course way, they used the palace, desperate schemers that they are, to sell supposed clout to the press and doubtless stateside. Forgive the harshness, but the king isn't only a parent to Harry, but he also occupies several lofty, important roles. Between all that, his fatherly feelings towards Harry, which one can't help but suspect played even a small part here, ought to be a minor consideration. Thank you for all the work you keep on putting in. Thank you for that, Christos Liakis. Lovely to hear from you. Again, I'm going to repeat it. The king isn't speaking to Harry. He can't be accused of softness when he is practicing loving detachment. He's not speaking to his son. He's at arm's length, let's put it that way. I was going to say hands off, but it's more at arm's length. To an extent, there has to be a degree of back and forth. But Harry's getting no money from his father. He's getting no concessions from his father. He's getting no concessions from his stepmother, from his brother or his sister-in-law, or indeed from the rest of the family. Where are people coming up with this from? I'll tell you where. From the media selling you a crock of rubbish. I know that some people would like to see the king completely repudiate Harry and cast him into the wilderness in the most callous way, and do it in such a humiliating way that they will enjoy the fact that Harry has finally got his just deserts. But Charles is his father. Charles is also the supreme governor of the Church of England, which is a Christian church. You can love the sinner and hate the sin. Doesn't mean you condone the sin. It doesn't mean that you agree with the sin or the sinner's right to sin. But it does mean that you are practicing Christian virtues and Christian approaches. And I'm all in favor of that. Charles has his conscience to live with. Charles is doing what, in my opinion, the best thing he can do. He is playing the 12-step program very effectively. He should not and will not, and I am totally behind him in not allowing people to bounce him in to doing things and taking harsher approaches than he should. The 12-step program requires that you let go and let God. Let the other person bugger it up for themselves. Don't get involved. Let them crash and burn. Let them hit bottom. It is a tried and true and the best and most effective way of dealing with people who have serious issues. I think the king is behaving extremely responsibly. I, as a parent, would actually behave exactly as he is behaving. And it's not because he's the king. It's because I think what he's doing is the right thing. And I'm not an apologist for the king. And just because I happen to know that he is doing things that he should be doing, and I agree with them, doesn't mean that I'm an apologist for him. And every now and then people say I'm an apologist for him. I'm not an apologist for him. Read whatever written about him. I'm certainly not an apologist for him. And I don't think he'd say that I am an apologist for him. In fact, I know he wouldn't. So let's leave it at that. Derek says, Charles would be a fool if he thinks that Harry won't betray him again. And let's face it, the more Harry and Meghan try to clean up their reputation, the dirtier it gets. I couldn't agree with you more. Why do you think his father is not speaking to him? Because his father understands that having been kicked in the teeth more than once by Harry, he's not opening his mouth and putting it in the line of fire of Harry's shoe. And until Harry cleans up his act, and rarely until Harry is divested of Meghan, or something dramatic changes, I'm afraid this is what is going to be the continuing picture. Donna Varapodio says, jealous Meghan Markle trying to take the headlines away from Princess Catherine at Wimbledon. What a pathetic person she is. I think I made that point yesterday as well. I've repeated it because it certainly was one of the incentives. Absolutely. R5000 says, if anyone wants to see what Meg's really is in a nutshell, watch the look of evil hate she had for Princess Charlotte on the day of her wedding. She turns around and looks at her little niece with hate. She hated little Charlotte. What the heck is wrong with her? Meghan is a deeply disturbing individual. I've seen that look. I've heard from Givenchy what happened. I do not believe Meghan's version of events. I believe Givenchy's and Catherine's version of events. I also think it is particularly, shall we say, questionable for any adult to play what I think Ivy Mulrooney was 9 years old and Charlotte was 3 years old. Anyway, she was playing Peter off against Paul. I'm sorry, divide and rule when dealing with a 3-year-old child. Just pathetic, but yeah. I think just look at the look that Meghan gives Charlotte. And it says it all. It says, sweet Megsy baby. Maybe her brother had some knowledge of why he said, keep her away from children and animals. Vivian Margaret Prescott says, the monarchy is really on thin ice now. Any hint of a reconciliation will bring them down. I don't agree with that. I don't think there's going to be a reconciliation. The best case scenario would be for Harry and Meghan to understand it was in their best interests as well as the monarchy's best interests to stop trying to top them at every turn, to stop trying to rain on their parade at every turn, to stop trying to steal attention from their valuable work at every turn. And if it is possible to get things to a stage where Harry and Meghan begin to behave as responsible individuals, or faking it, let's just say faking it, I think that would be to the good of all concerned. So I certainly wouldn't be discouraging it. But Is there going to be a reconciliation? Not a chance. If you think Harry and Meghan stand a hope in Hades of coming back here as working royals, you are wrong. And we're going to end with Frigg, who says, are Harry and Meghan truly a royal team? Harry is a member of the royal family, and so is Meghan by extension as a result of his wife, being his wife. Many people, including many YouTubers, speak about the ex-royals. They are not ex-royals. The former royal known as Prince Harry, he's not former royal. He may not be allowed to use the style of Royal Highness, but he is still a royal. So, sweetie pie, is she, I'm sad to have to tell you. She is royal too. I mean, she may behave like a scrubber, and she may behave like the lowest of the low of the most ill-bred category of low life that the United States of America can produce, twerking like she's something out, well, like she's a gutter snipe, and grossly unseemly, but she's still royal. So if you accept the realities of the situation, things begin to make more sense and become more intelligible. I know this is a big stretch because the mainstream media and many commentators, both on and off the mainstream media, are intent on feeding all sorts of nonsensical speculations about Harry and Meghan's status and who they are and who they aren't and what they're doing and what they aren't and what everybody else is doing and what everybody else isn't doing. The only way I have survived my life is by appreciating the necessity to be real and realistic. And once you can do that, you actually end up being able to cope with all that life throws at you, both the good and the bad. And I'm afraid that people are very often misled by the media. I think it's regrettable, and I'm not blaming people for the fact that they believe what they have been told, but I'm imploring you, just accept the realities, and then everything becomes much simpler and more intelligible. And on that note, I will say thank you very much for listening. I hope this has been of some interest to you. If it has, please keep the questions and comments coming in, so I will know what you would like us to be speaking about. Okay? Thank you so much. Take good care and Godspeed. Bye-bye. And if you have truly enjoyed this, would you care to like, share, subscribe, press the notification bell, and take good care.
Pays and comes and attends and so on, but you bring people together, they make friends with each other, and you make friends with them. You treat them as your friends from the get-go, and that is the secret of building things and building good feeling and building good experience, and you keep on doing it. I'm very proud of you, very proud. And I expect you would like it. I'll say this, I've said it before, I'll say it again, because it's on me as well. Olga is somebody who does one wonderful thing for me, is that she knows how to protect. It is a very wonderful thing she does for me and for our son John, who you've heard tonight. And she's going to carry on bringing her love to everyone. Here she is, and this is Olga. Yeah.
Thank you so much for I think we're going to pause with the speeches for the moment. We're going to have more entertainment, and of course we're going to have cake. What birthday party is without a cake? No, we can't. So I think maybe we could put background music. Yeah. And
so hello, it's strictly dancing. It's
The background music or you?
no, don't mind.
That is clever, that is.
unfreeze, talk, have more to drink, enjoy, and we're going to speak to you a bit later.
Enchanted evening, someone may be laughing, you may hear her laughing across a crowded room, and night after night, as strange as it seems, the sound of her laughter will sing Who can explain it? Who can tell you why? Fools give you reasons, wise men never try. Some enchanted evening, when you find your true love, when you feel her call you across a crowded room, then fly to her side and make her your own. Now roll through your life, you may dream all alone. Once you have found her, never let her